A missile rises into the sky. No long preparation, no visible warning, just a sudden ignition and a fast-moving streak cutting through the air. This is not a routine launch. For the first time since the war began, Iran has used one of its most advanced medium-range ballistic missiles, the Sejjil-2. On March 15, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps carried out what it described as the 54th retaliatory missile strike against Israel. But this wave was different. Because within that barrage, a new system appeared on the battlefield, a solid-fuel missile with a range of approximately 2,000 kilometers, a system capable of reaching deep across the Middle East, and a system that had never been used in this war before. At the same time, multiple other missiles were launched alongside it, including Khorramshahr, K-Barshekin, Qadr, and Ahmad. This was not a single strike, it was a coordinated wave. Inside Israel, the impact was immediate. Sirens began sounding across major cities. From Tel Aviv to Herzliya and across more than 140 locations, residents rushed into shelters. In Tel Aviv alone, at least 23 fires were reported. In central areas, missile fragments struck a residential building used by a U.S. consul. 2 people were reported injured. The damage was limited, but the signal was not. Because this was not just about impact, it was about capability. Iran had introduced a new type of missile into active combat, a system designed for faster launch, heavier payloads, and wider reach. And in doing so, it changed the nature of the conflict. This was no longer just a series of exchanges, it was becoming a test of systems, a test of reach, and a test of how far each side is willing to escalate. To understand why this moment matters, you have to understand the system behind it. The Sejjil missile program represents a major shift in Iran's missile development. Unlike older systems, it uses solid fuel. That one detail changes everything. Traditional liquid fuel missiles require time. They must be fueled before launch, a process that can take hours, and during that time they are vulnerable, detectable, targetable. But solid fuel missiles are different. They can be stored fully prepared, ready to launch at short notice, which means less warning for the enemy and far less time to react. The Sejjil was first revealed in 2008. A year later, an upgraded version, Sejjil-2, was introduced. This version improved accuracy and overall performance. It is a 2-stage ballistic missile. During flight, the first stage separates and the second stage ignites. This allows it to travel longer distances with greater efficiency. Its maximum range is about 2,000 kilometers, enough to reach most of the Middle East. Its payload is equally significant. At long range, it can carry a warhead of around 700 kilograms. At shorter distances, that payload can increase to approximately 1,500 kilograms. This makes it suitable for targeting reinforced infrastructure and military sites. Another key advantage is mobility. The missile can be launched from mobile platforms, which makes it much harder to locate before launch, and harder to stop. There are also indications that it can carry multiple warheads, allowing it to strike more than one target in a single operation. Compared to other missiles in Iran's arsenal, the Sejjil-2 is larger and heavier. It focuses less on extreme speed and more on payload and reach, and that combination makes it a different kind of threat, not just faster, but more flexible, more survivable, and potentially more destructive. So why use the Sejjil-2 now? The timing is not random. It reflects a shift in how the conflict is being fought. Until this point, missile exchanges have followed a pattern, measured responses, gradual escalation. But introducing a system like the Sejjil-2 changes that pattern. It signals that Iran is willing to expand the level of capability being used, not just in volume, but in type. There are several strategic reasons behind this move. First, unpredictability. Solid fuel missiles reduce launch preparation time. That makes it harder for opposing intelligence systems to detect and respond. Launches can happen faster, from more locations, with less warning. Second, survivability. Mobile launch systems mean the missile does not need fixed infrastructure. It can be moved, hidden, and deployed quickly. This reduces the risk of preemptive strikes. Third, range flexibility. With a reach of around 2,000 kilometers, the missile can be launched from deeper Arabic Dal, Arabic Khalif, Arabic Ket, Arabic Clam Iranian territory, not just from Western regions. This expands the number of possible launch points and complicates enemy planning. Fourth, payload impact. The ability to carry heavier warheads increases its effectiveness against hardened targets, such as military facilities and infrastructure. At the same time, the use of multiple missile types in the same wave suggests a layered strategy. Different missiles serve different roles. Some for speed, some for precision, some for payload. Together, they create a more complex attack pattern, one that is harder to defend against. And beyond the technical advantages, there is also a message, a signal to both Israel and the wider region, that Iran's missile capabilities are not static, they are evolving. And they are now being used in real combat conditions. The introduction of the Sejjil-2 does more than change a single battlefield, it reshapes the strategic landscape. Across the Middle East, range matters, and a 2,000-kilometer range changes the map. It places a wide area within reach, not just Israel but multiple countries across the region. This affects how defense systems are planned, how military assets are positioned, and how risks are calculated. It also creates new challenges for missile defense. Shorter launch preparation times mean less warning. Mobile platforms make detection more difficult, and if multiple warheads are used, interception becomes even more complex. At the same time, the use of heavier payloads increases the potential damage, not just to military targets but to infrastructure, which raises the stakes of each exchange. Beyond the region, this development is being closely watched because it reflects a broader trend in modern warfare, a shift toward systems that are faster to deploy, harder to detect, and more flexible in operation. It also signals that the conflict is entering a new phase, one where more advanced systems are no longer being held in reserve, but actively deployed. And once that threshold is crossed, it is difficult to reverse. Each new system introduced creates pressure for a response. Each escalation changes expectations. And each step forward reduces the space for de-escalation. Because in modern conflict, capability is not just about what a country has. It is about what it is willing to use. And now, with the Sejjil-2 entering the battlefield, the question is no longer how far this conflict can reach, but how far both sides are prepared to take it.